Have you ever heard the story of the girl who came from the moon? In ancient Japan, there lived a humble bamboo cutter. Each day, he wandered deep into the forest, cutting only what he needed to sell. His life was quiet and modest, but peaceful. One morning, as the sun filtered through the trees, he noticed a soft glow coming from inside a bamboo stalk. Curious, he stepped closer and gently split it open. To his astonishment, he found a tiny girl, no bigger than his hand, sitting calmly inside the stalk, surrounded by a warm light. She did not cry or move, she simply looked up at him as if expecting to be found. The bamboo cutter was overwhelmed with wonder. He wrapped her gently in cloth and carried her home. He and his wife had no children, and though surprised, they welcomed the child with love and care. They named her Kaguya, which means Princess of the Radiant Night. From the moment she arrived, strange things began to happen. Each time the bamboo cutter returned to the forest, he discovered gold and silks hidden in the bamboo stalks. Soon, the poor couple became wealthy, but despite their new riches, they remained humble. Their greatest treasure was Kaguya. She grew at an unnatural pace. Within a short time, she had become a young woman of stunning beauty. Her skin glowed like moonlight, her hair was long and dark, and her presence felt otherworldly. People from the village began to talk. Word of her beauty spread far and wide, until even nobles and lords traveled from distant provinces just to see her face. 5 of the most powerful suitors in the land came to ask for her hand in marriage. They offered gold, jewels, land, and promises of eternal devotion, but Kaguya did not wish to marry. Instead, she gave each man a task, asking them to bring her legendary treasure, thought to be impossible to find. The jeweled branch from the mythical island of Horai, the robe made from fire rat fur, the Buddhist stone begging bowl, the colored jewel from a dragon's neck, and the cowrie shell born from a swallow's nest. She told them that only the man who returned with his chosen treasure would earn the right to marry her. The suitors accepted, believing their wealth and power would make the impossible possible. But Kaguya was not testing their courage or devotion. She was placing a gentle barrier between herself and the world. For Kaguya did not come from this world at all, and one day she would have to return. The 5 suitors each set out in search of the treasures Kaguya had named. They were men of power and wealth, used to getting what they wanted. But this time, they faced tasks that no amount of gold or status could solve. The first man, seeking the jeweled branch from the island of Horai, hired a crew of skilled craftsmen. Rather than sail to the mythical island, he had them create a perfect imitation, using the finest metals and gemstones. Months later, he returned to Kaguya with the glittering branch, confident in his deception. She admired it silently, then called forth a hidden servant. The man had betrayed himself without knowing. One of the craftsmen had come to her in secret, revealing the lie in hopes of protecting her honor. The suitor was sent away in shame. The second man chased the robe made from the fur of the fire rat, said to be found only in distant China. He purchased a robe from a traveling merchant who claimed it was the real thing. But when Kaguya held it to the flame, it burned instantly. A real fire rat robe, legend said, could not be scorched. The second suitor bowed his head and left, humiliated. The third man sought the Buddha's stone begging bowl. He journeyed far, bribing monks and temples for clues, but no one had ever seen such a thing. Eventually, he returned with a beautiful bowl carved from stone, claiming it had been passed down from the sacred mountains. But when Kaguya asked him to show proof, he could not. His voice faltered, his story changed. She thanked him for his effort, then declined his proposal with kindness. The fourth man declared he would bring back the colored jewel from a dragon's neck. His journey led him to stormy seas and wild lands. He never returned. Some say his ship was lost in a typhoon. Others believe he saw the dragon and turned back in fear. Whatever happened, Kaguya Hime never spoke of him again. The fifth suitor believed his task to be the simplest. He searched for a cowrie shell said to be born from swallows. He climbed cliffs and waited in silence by their nests. Days turned to weeks. He fell ill from exposure, and when he finally returned, he had only an ordinary shell, not the miracle he had promised. Kaguya Hime accepted it gently, then placed it on a shelf with the others, a quiet symbol of the world's limits. None of the suitors succeeded. As time passed, Kaguya Hime became more distant. Each night, she gazed at the moon with sorrow in her eyes. Her adoptive parents noticed the change. They asked what was wrong, but she could not answer. She began to cry alone in the garden. Sometimes she whispered words in a language they did not understand. Other times she stayed awake through the night, watching the stars fade into morning. Her heart was growing heavy, as if some invisible force were calling her away. And then, one evening, under the full moon, she told them the truth. One night, as the full moon rose high and silver light flooded the garden, Kaguya Hime sat in silence beside the bamboo cutter and his wife. Her voice trembled as she spoke, and tears formed in her eyes. She told them the truth she had hidden for so long. She was not of this world. She came from the moon, sent to Earth for a reason even she could not fully explain. All she knew was that her time among humans had been a kind of exile, a moment of experience and reflection far from her celestial home. She had lived quietly, loved deeply, and now the time of return was approaching. When the next full moon arrived, beings from the moon would descend and take her back. The old couple was devastated. They had raised her as their daughter, and in every way she had become one. The bamboo cutter wept openly, begging her to stay. His wife held her hand tightly, as if her grip could keep Kaguya from slipping away. But Kaguya Hime could not refuse the call of her origin. She did not wish to leave. She had come to love the earth, its people, and most of all, her adoptive parents. But the moon was calling, and the light within her grew brighter with each passing night. News of her story reached the ears of the Emperor of Japan. Curious and moved by tales of her beauty and grace, he had once tried to meet her in person, but she had declined. Now, learning that she was to be taken from the world, he acted quickly. He sent soldiers to guard her home, surrounding the house with warriors and archers. They were ordered to protect her from the moon beings at all costs. But Kaguya Hime knew they would not succeed. As the night of the next full moon arrived, the sky became unnaturally bright. A soft hum filled the air, and clouds parted as a great light descended from above. The guards raised their weapons. The bamboo cutter stood before the door. But when the celestial beings touched the ground, no one could move. A stillness spread across the land. The soldiers froze where they stood. Even the trees stopped swaying. The light was gentle, but absolute. The beings from the moon wore flowing robes and carried a golden box. Their leader stepped forward and bowed to Kaguya Hime, his face calm and solemn. She turned to her parents, tears streaming down her cheeks. She thanked them for their kindness, their love, and their care. She said she would never forget them, even if her memories faded. Before she left, she wrote a letter to the Emperor. Along with it, she sent a small gift, the elixir of immortality. It was a final gesture of gratitude, though she knew it would never be enough to repay what Earth had given her. The bamboo cutter and his wife watched in silence as Kaguya Hime stepped into the light. Her robes shimmered, her feet left the ground. And slowly, she rose into the sky. The moment she disappeared, the world returned to normal. But it was no longer the same. The moonlight faded, and with it, Kaguya Hime was gone. The bamboo cutter and his wife stood in the garden long after the sky returned to darkness. They did not speak, they did not move. The home they had once filled with laughter and warmth now felt still and heavy. Though they had always known she was not of this world, they had hoped their love would be enough to keep her here. But some souls belong to the stars, and even the strongest love cannot hold the moon. Far away in the capital, the emperor received her letter. He read it in silence. Her handwriting was delicate and precise. In her message, Kaguya thanked him for his kindness and grace. She told him she admired his spirit but could not give him her heart. She asked him to cherish life on earth and to remember her not with sorrow, but with peace. With the letter came a small, shimmering vial. The elixir of immortality, a gift from the moon. One sip would grant him life without end. The emperor held the vial in his hand, feeling its warmth. But he could not bring himself to drink it. What meaning would eternity hold without her light to walk beside him? He felt that to live forever without Kaguya would be a deeper sorrow than any death. He called his most trusted men and gave them a final command. "Climb the highest mountain in the land," he said. "Take this letter and the elixir. Burn them at the peak, and let the smoke rise into the sky. Let it carry my message to her." They obeyed. At sunrise, they reached the summit of Mount Fuji. There, with the wind in their faces and the clouds below, they lit a fire. The paper caught first, then the vial. As the flames rose, the smoke drifted upward into the early morning sky. It swirled and twisted like a silent prayer. They say that from that day forward, the smoke never truly stopped. And that is why Mount Fuji sometimes wears a crown of mist, as if the emperor's message still reaches toward the moon, searching for the one he could never hold. Even now, when the moon is full and bright, some say you can feel her watching. Not with sadness, but with love, a love that touched Earth only for a moment, but changed it forever. Some stories are not meant to end with happily ever after. Some are meant to stay with us, echoing quietly through time, like moonlight on water. If this story moved you, even just a little, take a moment to like this video. Follow for more timeless legends from around the world. Share it with someone who needs a story tonight. Save it to come back to later. And if you have ever loved someone who could not stay, leave a comment below. You are not alone.